Okay, so get this right.
Hmm.
27 horses found dead at a farm in California. Like, what? How does something like that even happen?
It's a truly horrific case of animal neglect and abuse, and it gets even crazier, right? I mean, the story behind it, it's wild.
So, I've been poring over these news articles, and honestly, I'm still reeling. This Legacy Farms case is just brutal.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, just start the sheer number, right? 27 dead horses, plus dozens more were found starving and sick, some so bad they had to be euthanized right there.
Oh, just awful. I mean, the descriptions in the reports are just heartbreaking. Like horses so emaciated they couldn't even stand. Can you imagine?
I mean, no, it's hard to even fathom that kind of suffering. So walk us through it a little. I mean, what would cause that level of deterioration in a horse, like physically?
Right. Well, the most obvious thing is food, right? And water. Depriving horses of those basic necessities is going to lead to starvation and dehydration pretty quickly, actually. But it goes way beyond that. A lot of the rescued horses were suffering from things like laminitis. It's a super painful inflammation in the hoof.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And then there's rain rot. You get that from prolonged exposure to moisture. Basically, it's a skin infection. But untreated, it can be really nasty.
So these animals were suffering on multiple levels, basically.
Absolutely. And for a long time, it seemed.
Which makes it even more shocking that this was happening right under everyone's noses.
Yeah.
So, like, where were the authorities in all of this?
Well, that's $1 million question, right? I mean, how could this kind of neglect go on for so long without anyone noticing?
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, what kind of person could do this to defenseless animals?
That's what's so disturbing about this case. I mean, we're talking about deliberate cruelty here.
And thankfully, there were some good Samaritans involved, because over 60 horses were saved and taken to Oakdale Equine Rescue. Hopefully, they can recover from this trauma.
Yeah, they are getting the care they need, finally, which is a huge relief.
But here's where things take a really dark turn. The farm's owner, Ann Johnson Pestana, she isn't just facing animal cruelty charges. There's a whole rap sheet of other offenses.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about threats against a public official, criminal threats in general. She was even found with a short-barreled shotgun.
Well, wait, a shotgun? Like, seriously, what's going on here?
Right. It's crazy. And then there's this warrant from back in 2006 for allegedly threatening, like, a whole school, employees, officers, everyone.
A school? Hold on, are you serious? Like, a school shooting threat?
Yeah, the details on that are still pretty murky. Like, were those threats ever actually substantiated?
But still, that adds a whole other layer of scary to this case.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it makes you wonder if there's a connection, right, between, like, the animal neglect and this pattern of threatening behavior.
Could it be, like, a psychological thing? Like, is it common to see animal cruelty linked to threats against people? I mean, it's got to be related somehow, right?
Well, you can't really say for sure that it's a direct correlation, but there are definitely some potential overlaps in those, personality types.
So, like, what kind of overlaps are we talking about?
Well, sometimes you see hoarding behavior, right? And that can escalate, and the person can get, like, really defensive, even aggressive, when they're confronted about the animal's welfare.
Oh, so, like, they see it as an attack on them.
Exactly. Or, and this is kind of darker, the threats could be a way to, silence people who might expose the neglect. Like, they're trying to keep it all under wraps.
That is just so messed up. And honestly, it fits a pattern because this isn't Pestana's first run-in with the law.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Back in 2006, she was accused of elder abuse. And she allegedly swindled, like, $150,000 from an elderly woman.
Wait, 2006? So, like, almost 20 years ago. What happened with that?
Well, the allegations were that Pestana used the money to buy horses and equipment, actually.
Hold up. So this isn't just a random string of bad behavior. It's like horses are at the center of it all.
Yeah, it's definitely a recurring theme. And you gotta wonder, right? Like, is this just a coincidence? Or are we looking at some kind of deeper issue here?
It's starting to feel less like coincidence and more like a pattern of behavior.
Definitely makes you think.
And this whole thing, like, it raises some big questions for me. Like, about the systems we have in place, I mean, how could this neglect have gone unnoticed for so long? Like, where were the checks and balances? Where was animal control?
Right. It really highlights the need for stronger animal welfare laws, for sure. But it also shows the importance of community vigilance. Like, if you see something, say something. Don't just assume someone else is going to take care of it.
Absolutely. We all have a part to play in preventing animal cruelty.
100%.
So going forward, with Pestana, like, what do you think will be the most important piece of evidence? What's going to make or break this case?
That's a tough one. I think the key is going to be establishing a timeline. When did this neglect actually begin? Were the threats directly related to attempts to cover up what was happening at the farm? Unraveling that sequence of events is going to be huge in, really understanding the scope of Pestana's actions and her motivations.
It's a really messed up case. But it's also a wake-up call. We need to be more aware of the signs of animal neglect. And we can't be afraid to speak up if we suspect something's wrong.
I think that's the biggest takeaway here, right?
Because these animals, they rely on us to be their voice.
Absolutely.
And what happened to Legacy Farms, it's a harsh reminder that we can't let them down. We owe them better.